Cardoza-Moore, and this is Focus on Israel. On this edition of Focus on Israel, we're going to take you to one of the world's most prestigious museums, Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum and Memorial in Jerusalem. Hello, and welcome to Focus on Israel. I'm Lori Cardoza-Moore, president and founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and sharing the message of Christian biblical responsibility to the people and land of Israel against the rise of a global genocidal anti-Semitism. The Holocaust, or Shoah, was a defining event in human history, one which generated a major crisis of credibility regarding our most basic assumptions about the nature of mankind, of society, of the modern state, and of our responsibility as individuals to take a stand against the unjust suffering of innocent people everywhere. The Nazi persecution of the Jews began in 1933 and led to the mass murder of Jews during World War II. It took the Germans and their accomplices 4.5 years to murder 6 million Jews. By 1945, most of the Jews of Europe were dead, and the unique, multifaceted culture of European Jewry that had flourished for almost 2,000 years was no more. Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Authority, was founded in 1953 by an act of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, and entrusted with the mission of safeguarding the memory of the Holocaust and imparting its meaning for future generations.
Yad Vashem, as we all know, is the premier Holocaust institution in the world and is internationally recognized as the authority on the Holocaust.
As the Jewish people's living memorial to the Holocaust, Yad Vashem, on the Mount of Remembrance in the eternal city of Jerusalem, safeguards the memory of the past and imparts its meaning for future generations. A world center for commemoration, education, documentation, and research of the Holocaust. Yad Vashem today is a dynamic and vital place of intergenerational and international encounters. When the war ended, many believed that the memory of the Holocaust would act as a deterrent. To our sorrow, violent hatred, and even Holocaust denial are still a daily reality. The website acts as an essential tool for reaching out to millions of people worldwide, with materials in more than 18 languages and easy access to its online databases. The website enables Yad Vashem to harness technology in the service of memory.
אם לוקחים לי את ההורים, ממילא החיים שלי לא שווים כלום, אין לי מה להוסיף. סגרתי אבא, אח ואמא. תעתי סגרתי יחיד ובן משפחה. זה מה שהם מאמינים, אח שמם זה לא פוללו לנו. וזה דברים שאסור לשכוח. מצד שני, יש לנו כמה שזכינו, יש עוד חסמים, זכינו כמובן למשפחות לתפארת. אני אומר, וזו הנקמה והנחמה.
The journey through Yad Vashem is one of stark contrasts between suffering and hope, hatred and compassion, indifference and action in the face of death. At Yad Vashem, we are reminded we always have a choice. With programs that reach every corner of the globe, the International School for Holocaust Studies promotes dialogue between our past, present, and future.
I have come to stand in silence before this monument, erected to honor the memory of the millions of Jews killed in the horrific tragedy of the Shoah. They lost their lives, but they will never lose their names. They are indelibly etched in their hearts of their loved ones, the surviving fellow prisoners, and all those determined never to allow such an atrocity to disgrace mankind again. Most of all, their names are forever fixed in the memory of Almighty God.
We entered the Holocaust History Museum, which everyone would expect to start with horrible pictures of death and dying and corpses, etc. We start this museum with life, because in order to understand the magnitude of the loss that the Jewish people experienced during the Holocaust, we have to understand what they had before. And if you take a look at the architecture, the building is a triangle, digging into the ground like a saw, making the cemetery for the 6 million who were not given proper Jewish burial. And you notice we're underground. The museum is also built like a maze, ins and outs and under and over, and you get lost in here. What's the message? That's how the Jews felt. They were looking for a place to hide, a place to run, a place to exist when their existence was being snuffed out. We're standing in front of the cattle car that we have here in Yad Vashem. I don't think we could ever imagine the feelings going through people who are pushed together on a cattle car meant for animals and being taken to a place where they are about to be slaughtered.
The Holocaust was unique to the Jewish people, but its significance as a crisis of human civilization continues to resonate worldwide.
המבקר שעובר במהלך המוזיאון ומסכם לעצמו חוויה מאוד משמעותית וחזקה. נדמה לי שהערך העיקרי שאדם יכול לצאת הוא לראות את עצמו כבעל מחויבות גם לקהילה וגם לערכים האנושיים האלה.
Je me souviens très bien, au bout d'un long couloir, d'une immense pièce, avec des milliers de petites lumières et des prénoms d'enfants, c'était le murmure des âmes innocentes. Je me suis dit alors que sans doute c'était cela la politique, faire barrage à la folie des hommes en refusant de se laisser emporter par la folie des hommes. J'ai changé à Yad Vashem.
The international recognition of Yad Vashem for its promotion of peace, tolerance, and coexistence would not have been possible without the unwavering support of our friends around the world. Millions of pieces of evidence safeguarded in Yad Vashem's archives stand forever as an accurate and detailed historical record of the atrocities committed against the Jewish people.
My last will, Gela Zachstein. I wish to say goodbye to my friends and my work. I donate my work to the Jewish Museum to be founded in the future, to learn about the terrible tragedy of the Jewish community in Poland during the war. Be well, my Jewish people. Never allow such destruction to happen again.
If you take away from our people the memory, we shall not have a future. If you take away our heritage, we shall not have a vision. And we need a memory and a future, a heritage and a vision.
Drawing on the memories of yesterday, Yad Vashem aims to protect the values of mankind, strengthen commitment to Jewish continuity, and educate future generations.
There are many museums at first hand in the world, but the source is here. This is the heart, and this is the soul of Jewish memory.
Vashem is much more than a Holocaust museum. Situated on 45 acres on the Mount of Remembrance in Jerusalem, it is a world center for documentation, research, education, and commemoration of the Holocaust. Yad Vashem is a community of memory, housing the world-renowned International School for Holocaust Studies and International Institute for Holocaust Research, as well as the world's largest archive of Holocaust documentation and artifacts, and the world's most complete Holocaust reference library and film collection. In fact, we're extremely proud that our Emmy-nominated and award-winning documentary, The Forgotten People, Christianity, and the Holocaust, was accepted into the archives of Yad Vashem in 2012. It was truly an honor.
JTN presents a groundbreaking film from two-time Emmy Award-winning director Stan Moore, The Forgotten People, Christianity and the Holocaust. Christianity and the Holocaust, the most important film every Christian must see.
Anti-Semitism is still alive and well, and the Holocaust never really ended.
Anti-Semitism has been a part of Christianity for over 2 millennia, and today we're witnessing the rise of a new anti-Semitism, not only anti-Jewish, but also anti-Israel and anti-Zionist as well.
We're less than 13 million Jews. There are close to 2 billion Christians. Unless we join hands with Christians who join us in belief in a God of love and morality and peace, there's no hope for the free world.
Is there a problem with Christian anti-Semitism? Absolutely. Is this a Jewish problem? I would say absolutely not. It's a Christian problem. Christian scholars, educators, teachers need to deal with the problem of Christian anti-Semitism.
Through the centuries, and even today, most Christians remain silent in the face of this disease of hatred. This time, it is on our watch. Anti-Semitism and anti-Israel activities are at the highest rate globally since the days of the Nazis. Many of us are used to thinking that Israel cannot survive without the help of the United States. Maybe we should start wondering whether we can survive if we allow the terrorists to succeed in Israel. We make a terrible mistake if we deceive ourselves into thinking this is not our fight. In the end, the Israeli people are fighting the same enemy we are. Cold-blooded killers who reject peace, who reject freedom, and who rule by the suicide vest, the car bomb, and the human shield.
For there to be peace, most people believe that Israel must end its occupation of Palestinian land. The problem is that any Palestinian state, regardless of who rules it, will produce nothing but escalated violence, terror, and warfare in the Middle East. So in many respects, the two-state solution has much in common with the Nazis' final solution. Just another solution for killing Jews.
Anti-Semitism still exists as well in the West. Nobody cares if Jews die, if Westerners die. Now we must pay attention.
It's hard to imagine anti-Semitism going away entirely, but Christians should be leading the way to eliminate it.
We cannot let our Jewish brethren fight this battle alone. They have fought this battle alone for years, with no one standing with them. Now it's time for Christians to rise up. Now it's time for us to take a stand. Now it's time for us to say, never again.
Beautiful people, taken from their home, scattered people, nowhere to go.
The Christian Friends of Yad Vashem was founded in 2006 in partnership with the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem in order to educate Christians about the universal lessons of the Holocaust. Christian Friends of Yad Vashem enrolls Christians from various countries as members and holds an annual Christian leadership seminar at Yad Vashem for pastors and other Christian leaders. They are active in many countries worldwide, working with a variety of denominations and Christian ministries to build bridges between Jews and Christians. Dr. Susanna Kokanen is the director of the Christian Friends of Yad Vashem. She recently stated that the lessons of the Holocaust concern the failure of Christian values at the time when they were most needed. We as Christians need not only formal education, but an emotional and spiritual connection that can only be created through a shared understanding of history. We welcome Christians worldwide to join in our activities in Holocaust commemoration and education. CFYV promotes several wide-ranging activities at Yad Vashem, including bringing the universal lessons of the Holocaust to churches and Christian communities, building bridges between Christians and Jews, teaching the history of Christian anti-Semitism, and educating about the legacy of righteous among the nations. We had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Kokanen. She is originally from Finland and received her PhD in contemporary Jewish history from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
Well, the Christian Friends of Yad Vashem actually only came to exist in October 2006. When thinking about Yad Vashem, that Yad Vashem was founded in 1953, making it the oldest of all the Holocaust museums and education centers in the world, then it's very late in time that we have this cooperation with the Christian world. Yad Vashem saw that since films like Schindler's List came out, since the 1990s really, there was an increasing interest in the Christian world. Groups were coming to Yad Vashem and they didn't want only to tour the museum, they wanted to learn a bit more about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism. So Yad Vashem decided that there was a need to educate Christians and to have a program and to try to bring them into partnership with Yad Vashem. So this was established in 2006, and since then we have had many interesting developments. Since 2010 we have an annual Christian leadership seminar where Christian leaders from all over the world come to Yad Vashem. They meet with Holocaust survivors, many of them for the first time in their lives. They study with the experts we have in Jerusalem. They see the archives, the materials we have there, and then of course that all changes you, because the meetings with the Holocaust survivors, they give the Holocaust a human face many of these leaders never knew existed. You know, 6 million is such a large number, so you need to somehow understand that we are speaking about human history, about human beings. We host a lot of visits at Yad Vashem. Very important people from all over the world come and they all want to have a program there. So we have all these meetings, and then of course we need to educate the churches and we need to get the Christian leaders to go back and be active in their own communities. So my role is to coordinate all of this and to plan these different programs, to invite people to come to Yad Vashem, and just to try to make Christians aware that when they come to Israel, it's very important in order for them to understand what Israel is today, to also to see Yad Vashem and to learn that history. When we have Christian groups coming to Yad Vashem and meeting with Holocaust survivors, it's always very emotional. It's emotional for both sides, because for the survivor who are now living in the last years of their lives, it's a chance to tell their story. And suddenly seeing these Christians who have an interest, who feel sympathy, who want to hear the story, it's very emotional, and the response is overwhelmingly positive. We know that people really feel that it's a special time to spend with the Holocaust survivors. And in terms of Yad Vashem, just touring the museum, it's very emotional too, but I think more than emotional, it's very educational, and it challenges people, and many of them, they write back to us afterwards and they say that they had never actually thought about the world the way they think about it after the visit, because for the first time they realized that we cannot take those few years of the Holocaust out of context. We actually have to look at the history, how it started, and in a certain way also where it is going to. And so when you come there and you see that the Jewish communities, they lived in Europe, they produced so much culture, they were such citizens that contributed so much, and then what happened, you understand that these things, they don't happen by chance, that there are all those years before the Holocaust when people's minds were prepared. So I think that's what many people feel that is the most important part of their visit, that understanding that they get about where Holocaust is in the greater line of history. There's the whole context of Christian anti-Semitism that it seems very strange how it could be, but it is that some of them never thought about it. They thought about the Holocaust as something that happened in Nazi Germany, but they never really thought about it in the context of the longer Christian anti-Semitism that preceded it. Or they never thought about what Christian leaders were doing at the time of the Holocaust. So when you start looking at these things, and you cannot come to Yad Vashem and not to start thinking about these things, many of them for the first time look at their religion, our religion, in a very different way. And the fact that there were so many church leaders who remained silent when these things were happening, that's usually the one thing, if I can point one thing that is very thought-provoking, and that most of them feel that it starts a process of thinking about these things. But of course, then we still have the task that we have to move on from that, and we have to look at our own time, and that's not so easy. Because then you almost need to admit that the Christian anti-Semitism has survived. And that it's so easy to look at the past, but when you need to look at it and say, well, what does my church say today about Israel, and why do we focus so much on Israel? Why are we not talking about human rights violations in all the surrounding countries? And that is very difficult. So that's not very easy. But the response is still, it's positive, because people, any thinking person realizes that this is necessary. You need to think about these things. If we only look at the Holocaust and we see it as part of history, we are actually missing something very important. Because why do we study history? Why do we commemorate the Holocaust? Not only to remember, but in order to understand what we must do now to not to have it repeated again.
When you go to Israel, a stop at Yad Vashem must be included in your tour. The knowledge gained and spiritual connection with Jewish people is vital to your experience there. Well, that's our show for today. And I hope you realize that the time to stand up is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your elected officials. Let your leaders hear from you. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
You just learned a portion of the truth about the world's most volatile region, the world's most demonized country, and the 2,000-year hatred of a people that have survived despite the odds. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. but anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. If there's one thing history has taught the Jewish people, a place they can go in a time of need is essential, and Israel fulfills that role. But the need for a Jewish state is not limited to being only a refuge for Jews. Jewish tradition in Israel grants full rights for women and people of all races, faiths, and gender. This tradition is what often makes Israel among the first countries to send doctors and field hospitals to any place where a natural disaster occurs, utilizing their medical advances to save lives worldwide. Muslims, Christians, and people of every faith, or those of no faith, have the freedom to worship or not worship as they choose. For Muslims, the Jewish state goes out of its way to provide this freedom. For example, every Israeli university gives students the option of deferring their exams during the month of Ramadan. The Knesset calls off all sessions at sunset during Ramadan to ensure that Muslim Knesset members can break their fast with the traditional iftar dinner. In an open and democratic manner, opportunities for education, advancement, and careers exist for all citizens in the Jewish state. Sadly, such rights and opportunities do not exist in any of the Muslim Arab states. For example, in neighboring Jordan, Jews cannot become citizens. And in Saudi Arabia, no non-Muslim can become a citizen. Saying that Israel must cease to exist as a Jewish state while accepting that other countries define themselves as Muslim is pure hypocrisy. In most of these countries, no rights exist for non-Muslims, women, and the LGBT community. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org.